Welcome to Elements for Metabolomics training video number 3. In our first two videos, we showed you how to load, process, and organize your data with elements for metabolomics. In this third video, we'll follow up with downstream analysis of your data using both the metabolite view over here and the visualized view. So what we did previously with our samples view is actually starred a few of the metabolites here. And over here on the filters, if I click off all the non-starred ones here, you'll see these 4 resveratrol compounds have been starred. And these are the 4 I'm going to then go further into the metabolite view and look at. So the metabolite view is broken down into 2 sections, basically. And it provides you a lot of detailed information about the identified metabolites. There's the metabolite listing tables up on top, and the bottom part is 2 separate panes. Now, the top part is separated by 2 other views, and that'd be the metabolite list tab and the ion pane. The first group I'm going to go through lets you scroll through the various metabolites in your sample. So this one over here says metabolite group. If you click on it, here you see the guanosine. If you click on it, you can actually scroll through. There's the resveratrol, there's the other resveratrol compound, and so on. You can go back and forth through your metabolites. The second part of this metabolites actually shows you the various metabolites within your group. It's a pull-down list that shows you the compounds. And these are all members of this group, but they're ranked by how good of their score is from their ion scores. You can see the resveratrol, which is the top-ranking metabolite from this group, is most likely the right things, but some of these other ones have properties that are similar to resveratrol, and therefore it's grouped into there. Below that, you're going to see an ion pane. And in the ion pane, what you'll see is a lot of information about that compound. And in this case, you can see its theoretical mass as well as the actual mass you calculated, and you can see its delta mass charge, and it's off by only one ppm. And you can also see its retention time and it's how different it is over time. Now the second pane here actually works really well with the first pane, and I just dragged it down here. And the second pane is actually each individual sample of where this compound has been found. So here you can see in the sample names you've got the 3 200 micromolar and the 320 micromolar samples where this resveratrol was identified. Now that's to be expected. Out of the 9 samples we had previously, 3 of them didn't have resveratrol, so you didn't expect the 0 micromolars to actually identify it, and that's good. But the other 3 did have resveratrol, so you can see it. If you click on it, you'll actually see that the scores here differ slightly, as well as the downstream panes change. Now I'm going to focus on the bottom 2 panes, which have a lot of information further to let you validate your compound. And the first thing we'll do is we'll look at the references. And if we go down here to this cis resveratrol, what you're going to see is in the reference pane, there's a lot of information here, and I'll drag it over so we can actually look at it a little bit further. You actually can see the name as well as information on the smiles. But the nice part about this pane is it gives you the formula. I'm looking at our mass, and this drop-down box is my favorite, because in here you can actually click on multiple places where this compound has been, and more information about this compound has been provided. Like HMDB here, it says here now it gives you the number automatically, and if you click on this, what it'll instantly do is go to HMDB and pull up all the detailed information on this compound. As well as we go back and go to PubMed and click on it, it'll go to ChemSpider, or PubMed I meant in this case, and show you it, not ChemSpider. So that's really, really nice feature of the software that'll easily let you go further into these databases and let you find out more information about them, whether, you know, this might be a name, but there might be a common name you're known by, or other things you can look at, as well as where you could actually buy compounds to actually test this and control for it. The second tab here on the pane is called quantitative charts. And what quantitative charts, there's 2 types. One is a box plot, and here's a box plot of the concentration across these samples. Here's the log 10 precursor ion intensity. It's not concentration, but of the 3 concentrations. There's a 0, the 20 micromole, and the 200 micromole. I can zoom in here And if I zoom in on here, just grab the mouse and zoom in, what you'll see is you'll see hatched box plots. I'll zoom in even further, and you could see the 3 samples and their standard deviation and what the average precursor ion intensity. If you go down to the other box here, what you're going to see is just the same details. It's in a bar chart with error bars in it. And I can zoom again in here and look at what the error bars are between the samples. And that's a really nice feature. It lets you look at your data pretty quickly among your compounds. And let's go back to that first compound. Actually, I have to go back here and go back to the guanidine. And if we go back under metabolites now and look here, what you'd expect to see is it's the same concentration across all 3 samples because it's in there in all 3. So now here you can see, and you can look at the reproducibility of those. So that's a really nice feature. Now let's further look at these resveratrol compounds. We'll go back into metabolites. And let's look at this feature 3D plot. This is something that was newly added, and it really helps you look at your samples in more detail. So if we go down to the resveratrol here, and you look at the sample here, what you're going to see is here is the monoisotopic peak here. And if we go over here, there's an associated window that sort of works with it. And what I'll do is, normally you could see the things here, but the easier way to see this is actually go in column view, and it'll give you a lot more larger view here. So over here, if I went from row to column, it'll give you a lot more visualization over here. And what you can do over here is in view type over here, you can say this is the feature, the main parent ion feature. You can also click feature with isotopes. And now what you're going to see is you're going to see all 3 isotopes. Let's turn it around like you'd normally expect to see it. So here's the M, the M plus H, the M plus 2H, and the M plus 3H. So you can see all 3 of those. And you can actually then even either scroll in or scroll out to actually look at the noise and other things as well in this feature. Now, associated with that is this heat map, which actually shows you what peaks were picked exactly and what was integrated. Here's the box for this compound used in this sample. And you can actually go through multiple samples and look at the same types of plot to be sure that it's integrating the data right, as well as it picked the peak properly. And that's a really nice feature. Now let's go into the other side, and there's some other nice features. Next one is the XIC, which is extracted ion chromatogram. And in here, what you'll notice is you're taking that same precursor intensity and you're looking at it over time. And you can see it's got a very nice chromatography here. And its deviation in ppm is very, very low down here. So you can actually zoom in even more here. And you'll see, you can actually see very small deviation. It's about less than 1 ppm off the whole way along for that. So that gives you an idea of how good the chromatography is. You can go to the next compound and see the chromatography is also good. It's a little bit wider, but it's also, you got to look at the retention time in minutes. It's normalized for where the peak is. And this one you can see is a little bit tails at the beginning of the run as well. So that's just one way to look at how the good chromatography is from run to run. And you can actually look at it across your runs and get an idea of how it shifts and other features such as like that. Another nice feature is isotopic distribution. So if we go here and look earlier, you saw these parent ions plus the M plus 1 to M plus 2. You can now see how that distribution was calculated and what the theoretical would be as well as what the observed is. And you can look how it measures. And this is how it's used to calculate the score for isotopic distribution. And lastly is where you're actually taking your MS2 spectrum and you're comparing it to the reference database you have. And in this case, you look at this resveratrol, you're going to see we actually took 5 scans, scan 128 through 188. We kept taking scans from 3.6 minutes to 5.1 minute of different MS, and all these matched our parent ion, our library spectrum, not our parent, our library spectrum. And 5 of the 21 matches were within a half a Dalton. That was what our tolerance was set earlier. And you can zoom in here as well and see how the matches look. The top spectrum here is your observed spectrum, and the bottom in red is the reference spectrum. And that just lets you go through most of the data in metabolites and verify that the metabolite was correctly identified, as well as you're confident in that. Now what we'll continue to do is we'll go back to the visualize pane, but in this case I don't want to just look at these 4 and how they change. I'll look at all the samples. But I've done a comparison between the samples, between 0 micromole de novo, 20 micromole, and 200 micromole. So what I'm going to do is filter all the compounds that are 0.05 and lower than that. And then I'll go to this Visualize tab. And the Visualize tab has two panes. First, it has a heat map, and the second part has a details pane here, which actually gives you more information on the heat map. So there's three buttons at the top. The first button here will only show you the heat map. It'll show you in full screen landscape mode. The second will show you both the heat map and the details pane. So if I click on a certain tree here, you can actually see the details of what was in this tree, what was clustered in that tree. And the third one will just give you the details pane. We're going to use the middle one for now. And the heat map is really nice in that the heat map shows you which compounds most likely change according to what you expect. So if you look down here, you're going to look at compounds that didn't change at all in 0, and they were up in the next two, and that's the resveratrol compounds we expected. So that makes perfect sense. These next trees over here, even all these trees, are compounds that were in samples, but they didn't look like they changed much at all after normalization in any of these. These are just basic level compounds that were in all these samples. Ones up here are actually interesting in that these ones right at the very top up here weren't in the first one, but were in the second one and third. So you can see differences, and you can actually see information about them. Now it tells you the lineage and how they link together and how closely they're related, as well as the accession number and the name of the compound in this view. So in the end, this concludes our third video, and hopefully I've shown you how Elements works, how you can load data, process data, organize your data, as well as now validate your metabolites you've identified and do some visualization. There's one thing I didn't show here, actually, I just realized, and that's actually from here, if you get the picture you want, and you go over here, you can actually right-click and actually export it to a file. Either Excel will give you a list of all the compounds, but you can also export it as a PNG, and now you can see it actually labels them very nicely for you as well on here, and you could choose whether you don't want the tree or do want the tree, and a variety of nice features in this export view. So that's a nice feature. Sorry, I overlooked that earlier. And hopefully you've gained familiarity with the software and you'll have comfort using it on your own. But like I said in the last video, if you ever come across a question or a problem that was not addressed by these videos or the user manual, please do not hesitate to contact us. You can easily do this by going to our website at proteomesoftware.com and filling out a web form. Or you can email us at support@proteomesoftware.com or call us on our toll-free 1-800 number. One of the nice aspects of our company is that we are small and agile, and thus will handle your calls directly by our support staff in Portland, Oregon. Thank you for your time, and I hope you have a nice day.